The Toyota lights ablaze. Make sure the slower cars see them. Here we go. Oh my God! Oh my God! The Mercedes has taken off. That's Peter Dumbreck at the wheel of the number 5 Mercedes. The car flew right up into the air, over the barriers, over the wire, and into the trees. Let's look at this again. This is an awful accident. An awful accident. He moves out of the slipstream of the Toyota, and the car just takes off. That looks horrifically like a replay of what happened to Mark Webber, who I hasten to add, but that's a big impact.
There is a reason why Peter Dumbreck took flight in the 1999 Le Mans race. This is the reason why Formula One cars look to be attached to the asphalt they drive on. An invisible force called downforce increases the force of friction on a car's wheels on the ground, increasing what is commonly known as grip. This force is substantially created by a car's wing, or a spoiler, as well as the body's shape and features. A car's wing is essentially an upside-down form of an airplane wing. On an airplane wing, since the air flowing below the wing has a higher pressure than above a wing, a force pushes up on the wing, creating lift. Now if we flip the same wing upside down, now due to the shape of the wing, the lower pressure is below the wing, with practically reverse lift pushing the object down. This is how wings on cars function and create downforce. In addition to wings, a car's body shape also creates downforce. Typically, a faster car is rounder, and this is on purpose because it cuts through the air smoother and simulates the same phenomenon like downforce. This is the reason why something like an 18-wheeler is slower if we're ignoring the weight, because of the greater sum of surface area creating more significant air resistance. So if we look at this car here, since it's lower and has a more aerodynamic body style, it cuts through air faster and it has less surface area on the front, so it's producing less of a opposing force called drag on the back, compared to this truck right here, whereas there's more surface area on the front, so it's creating more drag on the back, which is a force opposing the direction of travel. Another clever way of increasing downforce is created by the use of splitters. A splitter increases the surface area on the front of a car, which may seem like a bad thing as previously explained, but it actually outweighs the amount of air resistance that would be created by the underbelly of a car. And its shape creates a vertical downforce. A car's splitter acts like a wedge that actually forces a high pressure air above the car, where it builds around the bumper and migrates up and over the car. The high-speed, low-pressure air passes underneath the car, and combined with the high-pressure air that is passing over the car, the lift, which is the force that's the opposite of downforce, which is seen in airplanes, is reduced, being that all cars actually have a factor of lift because of its shape is actually very similar to an airplane wing. And this results in a positive downforce. The reason why race cars don't just have an absurd amount of downforce on the cars is because most of the time, increasing its downforce actually increases another force called drag. Drag, also mentioned before, and commonly known as air resistance, will slow down a car, being that its force of drag acts in the opposite direction of the motion of travel of the car. The bigger the surface area of a certain part of a car, i.e. a wing or a splitter, and depending on how fast the car is traveling, will actually increase the drag of the car, slowing it down in turn. This is why cars are designed to slip through the air without much air resistance, while the shape of the body will increase the downforce. And this will create the debate about whether or not downforce should be more focused on compared to drag. And really it depends on what kind of race is actually being performed, such as in an F1 race, really we need to focus on creating more downforce because there's constant twists and turns, and having more downforce allows the car to stick to the ground and turn at higher speeds. And compared to something like drag racing, where drag needs to be reduced, because in drag racing you're trying to go as fast as possible, and with an excess amount of drag, then the car is going to go slower than a car that has less drag. Downforce can be easily represented by an equation that most physics students have learned now, and that would be the force of friction. Force of friction we know to be the coefficient of friction times the normal force, but in most cases we think the normal force to just be mass times gravity. But since we know that downforce is a vertical force and normal force is also a vertical force, that means we have to sum both those forces to actually get the physical normal force. So downforce is represented by this equation here, which is d, which is the downforce in newtons, is equal to half of its wingspan in meters, the thickness of the section in meters, h, f, the lift coefficient, times p, which is the air density, and velocity squared. Now we can take this force, add it to the weight, and see how if we increase the downforce, it actually increases the force of friction on the tires. And since the coefficient of static friction, which is going to be the tires, remains constant, we can see that increasing downforce will increase the force of friction. Now we can see downforce in a live example. Here we can see downforce in action. As you can see, the car's wing is at a slant. So as the car moves forward, the air is going to hit that wing at a slant, creating drag, but also downforce. So when the car moves forward, that wind is going to hit the slant, pushing the car towards the ground, but also pushing the car away from the direction of travel.